On.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody. You should all be here, and we started late, but bonus for everybody who is here on time. Welcome. This is, why don't I have my video on? Hi, everybody. Welcome to your Thursday, last Thursday of the month, speaker of the month. This is for coaching students only. So if you're watching this, you're a coaching student. Yay. This doesn't go out to the regular list. This is our bonus every single month to bring in new and unusual things and different perspectives for us all to talk about. Today, our guest is Daniel Finder. I know him as Malibu Dan because I actually listen to him on the radio. Fred, go ahead and give the introduction.
Okay, well, good morning, everybody, and thanks for joining us today. We, at the end of the last Thursday of every month, Lee and decided that, or it was agreed that we should have a guest speaker. And the guest speaker was going to be someone that could give us some really good information so we could all get better at marketing, right? That's why we're all here, for the purposes of today's show. And so when I knew Dan at the radio station, I met him, way back when, and he had a radio show on 97.1 Free FM. And then the station made a lot of changes, and Dan was a guy that loved radio. And so he hung around the station probably longer than he should have, right?
Yeah, very true. One of my biggest regrets, by the way.
But he would always ask me questions, and him and I kind of became friends at the station. And he would always ask me questions. And I remember this, and you probably too do as well, Dan. And he would say, Fred, I really like real estate, like, blah, 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 blah. And I said to him, I go, how much, he lives in Irvine, right by where I used to live in Woodbridge. And I said, how long does it take for you to drive from Irvine to Wilshire Boulevard? And he goes, I don't know, about an hour and a half. And I go, each way, right? He goes, yeah. I go, can you imagine if you took 3 hours out of your day that you would be spending driving in your car? And what did I tell you to do with those 3 hours, Dan? Do you remember? I'm sure you do.
Well, the conversation, as I remember, he told me to work. He said during those 3 hours, you'd be on the phone, you should be working. Is that what you right?
I pretty much said, grab a phone book like Steve Martin in the movie Jerk and just start dialing for dollars.
Yeah.
And if you did that, you would make at least 6 figures a year, even in your rookie year, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Yes. And not only did you do that, but you took it a step further. And so you got into real estate. You made the change.
I did.
You had a family to support, two kids, and a wife that, I know how your wife is, and she's very, very nice. But
yes,
you were living in Irvine, and you had a family to support, and here you are leaving the radio station, and you're making $0 per hour.
Yeah, well, I mean, thank you both for having me on, and it really means a lot to me. And the introduction was great. Thank you. I have a lot of I run through passion with everything. When I was in radio, it was all passion driven, not money driven, or not a Z-list celebrity driven, or whatever. It was just passion. I loved radio as well as I love real estate. And so it was obvious for me to get into real estate when I knew radio was not where I needed to be or wanted to be anymore. So I run my business off pure passion, and that's why I love it. And that's also why I'm able to look at the industry in a very positive way. I find what's happened with real estate is it really, people take it as a go-to job. And, hey, my friend drives a really nice car. She works half, part-time, and maybe she's a dentist during the day and a realtor at night. And I'm thinking that's, want to become a real estate agent. And those are the worst kind of realtors, because they're driven by everything but the passion for the actual agreement, for the actual deal. Meaning when I work with a client, they're not buying the house, we're buying the house. I use terms like our escrow, right? When we close escrow, let's go over, our request for repairs, because it's a true journey. And it's such a humongous purchase, whether or not it's your first time buying a home or your 15th time buying a house. It's just a really, 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 really big deal. So I think it's very important to be all in and not just part-time. First. Second is, yeah, man. I mean, I knew that when radio wasn't where I needed it, where I thought it was going, I made the change. And I made the change, frankly, late in life. I think I became a real estate agent at 40, 41. And I did have, I had a baby on the way. At the time I had an 8-year-old, I had a baby on the way. I had a great support from my wife, Sarah. Like, if you want to do it, let's just get it done. Let's do it. And frankly, I got busy enough to where she left her job and now she works with me and she does, all my marketing. And we've been really, really blessed, but it's not easy. And we take it very, very seriously. And we're always evolving and learning, and we're always chasing our tail. We're working ourselves out of a job, all the time, but we're up for the challenge. So yeah, it's a good world.
Before we get started, how you got started, getting all your leads and stuff, which I already know, but the question that Lee asked was, what was your opinion of the market? And you said that you're a positive person, and Lee and I were, more on the negative side because we saw the writing on the wall, higher rates, more inventory, lower sales volume. And, we're just like, prices are coming down. And then foreclosures, there was a big foreclosure issue, which they pretty much masked that. But that's a whole nother story. But tell us, just so everybody can hear, someone who's in the market in Orange County, he's in Orange County, and tell us your opinion of what you think about the market, just so everybody can kind of see what a successful person feels like, and being such a positive person.
Well,
so important.
I love talking about it. I talk about it every day because people are asking me every day. And you could just stop me if I just keep on going, because I have a lot of passion for it. I can't believe we're finally at this point in the market where it's going to be a much fairer place for both buyers and sellers. Prior to this, just to touch upon, when COVID hit, I think that everybody, and I'm generalizing, of course, but I think most people were nervous about real estate. Oh my God, what are people going to do? Where are people going to go? We're all stuck in our homes. It actually, at least for me and the people that I associate with, my partners and such, it was one of the best years all of us had. It was my personal second best year. And what it was people moving up. And that trend really, what it did to the market was it really became not just a seller's market, but an aggressive seller's market. And if you're a buyer, whether or not you're buying with cash or you have an FHA, or you're not a strong buyer, maybe 5% down, man, you're just not going to buy a house, and it's going to be a rodeo, and it's going to be hard. And you've got to, you got to be a therapist for your buyers and tell them, don't worry about it. It's going to happen. God works great ways, which I really believe. Your house is out there. Let's go through the adventure. So that lasted for me.
See those positive words right there? Let's go through the adventure. God has, just again, positive, and I'm just pointing those words out and I'm sure everybody's listening, but those are very, very important words when you're dealing with a buyer who's written 22 offers and hasn't gotten one accepted, and Dan will see that buyer to the end. How many offers did you write with that one buyer before you finally got the offer accepted?
And by the way, and there's also a screening process when it's all about setting expectations. When you meet a buyer for the first time, depending on where the market's at, you really got to explain it to them. Like and this is offensive, and I don't mean it to be offensive, but you got to understand where they're coming from. you got to explain it like you're explaining it to a 5-year-old or a 6-year-old. Okay. Right. And because they don't know, they might think they know, by the way. Right.
By the way, for the record, Dan, we've said it. I always say Fred is my explainer of me, because the truth is everything has to be explained at that level. Everything.
Right. And real estate's one of those industries, by the way, that anything can happen. Right. I mean, every single deal I do, every single agreement I do is different. And that's what I love about it. But you could look at somebody, you could say, hey, is my earnest money deposit protected? It is but this might happen. Okay. It hasn't happened. But my point is that you really you got to coach that buyer, whether or not they're buyers for the first time, or a buyer of the, doing this 15 times. And, I've got a buyer right now who I love to pieces. She swears she knows more than anybody, because all she does is Zillow and Trulia and Redfin, and this is what came up on New York Stock Exchange, and you're going through all this stuff. And I love that type of buyer, because they're well informed, they're educated. They just need to be directed. Okay, you're right about this, but let me tell you what you're wrong about. Okay, I'm not a big advocate, by the way, for reading any of that stuff at all, because all I know is what's happening in my world. We're in an industry that everybody's always buying and selling. It's just maybe not as many people. It's the same industry as a tow truck driver. Everyone needs a tow truck. I don't know anyone who hasn't who has been driving for more than X amount of years who've never encountered the use of a tow truck. Okay, so people will always be buying and selling. Whether or not they use you is a whole nother, obstacle. So where I think we're going with this, with the industry, is we're becoming a much fairer market, where we have delusional sellers. Okay, that we do, and I'm just being very candid with you, that like, hey, the Silversteins around the corner have the same floor plan, but no pool. And we've got a pool, and our house is worth $1.6 million. When you pull comps, and maybe it's worth now $1.4 million. Okay. Then you got buyers, and I've got several of them right now that are like, everything is going down 30%. So I know they want $1.85 million for the house. Let's offer $1.7 million. They'd be lucky to have it. So the struggle, by the way, is going to be which is awesome, is on both sides, because both sides of the spectrum need to find a happy medium, and that will become a much fairer market. It's the process that and the timing that people have to be patient with. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Right. And there is where you're setting your expectations. Now, with that being said, you also got to remember that there's those anomaly properties. Like, I'm in escrow right now on a property in LA, Sereno. They had 3 offers. We paid $50,000 above asking. No request for repairs. No, doesn't matter if appraisal comes in at value, blah, blah, blah. My buyers want the home. So then there's that property that kind of takes away from everything that that we think the market is doing. So it really is a process that you've got to have both feet in, and you really got to be a part of the transition. But I think for the masses, I think that it is going to be a much fairer market, a much better market for not only buyers, but also sellers. And I'm excited about the change. And I think you're right, Lee. I think it's happening. I see it happening a lot quicker than we are anticipating it to happen. It's going to happen within weeks at a time.
Yeah. In fact, the crazy thing that Fred, we brought it up yesterday. I was trying to get everybody's perspective. I was on the banking side in 2006 and 7, and you don't see it the same way out here. So out here, looking back at everything that's happening, I can apply my knowledge to see what the banks and what everybody's doing behind the scenes. But I don't recall 2006 to 7 jump being this. In fact, having watched The Big Short and reading The Big Short, the people that knew about that market and ultimately that crash thought it took a long time to actually get to the point where, you know, everybody cried uncle. And here we are again. Now we have more technology at this point in history. Now video and audio and all of these things, realize podcasting and real video really only started about 13, 14 years ago. So we didn't really have the snapshots like we do now, yet everybody is still remaining optimistic. The shift is happening quicker, certainly within the industry. We now have these clever terms like housing recession, which is insulting to housing. Housing always goes up and always goes down. I've been in real estate in some form since '88. It's the third or fourth cycle I've been through. It's inevitable. And interest rates were at one point, I even think Sam Zell said this on his interview. He did a loan at one point for 15% and was happy to get it. And people are complaining about sevens now, which is, well, okay, what would you rather, cheaper milk or, you know, a lower interest rate to prop up the economy on the real estate market? And
So
that's
Lee, let me ask you
interesting.
this.
Yeah.
Are you a big believer, because I'm not, in timing the market? And what I mean by that is this, is it's almost every open house I do. Okay, someone comes in, they're like, I love the house. This time next month, it's going to be $100,000 less, or whatever it is. And I'm going to time it. But I'm a big believer, out of experience, that those who time the market always lose in some.
I agree.
If you're ready to buy and you want to buy the home. Don't worry about the market. If you can afford it, buy it.
Okay.
I agree. I agree wholeheartedly with that.
I'm a believer on timing the market, but when is the best time? Zillow tried to time the market and sold all their properties before March of 2022. Had they waited till March of 2022, they would have been unbelievable. Real estate celebrities because of the timing of the market, but they still lost $880 billion with selling all their Zillow offer properties. So they timed just about 6 months too soon. My attitude is, if you're a seller, sell now. If you're a buyer and you're paying cash, wait, because prices are coming down. And if you're financing it, well, the GDP numbers just came out today. What are they at? 2.6%. So technically we're out of recession now, even though if you listen to CNBC, what CNBC is saying this morning, oh, we're out of the recession, but don't worry, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, my little financial friends. Oh, don't you worry, because we're going to go right back into that recession in the next 12 months. So the definition of recession is 2 negative quarters of GDP. Well, it's going to take 6 months to get back into a recession. So if they say in the next 12 months, they're predicting 2 quarters of negative GDP. Now, Orange County, that's an anomaly market. South Florida, that's an anomaly market. You know, there's some markets that we are here in Southern California that are anomalies. So when Dan's talking as positive as he is about the market, it's because he's in Orange County. You know, Mickey Mouse is right down the street. Fantasyland is right down the street from there. So, or inside of that park. So you can go play tiddlywinks with Tinkerbell and have all these positive thoughts. And I agree that Orange County is always going to be a good market. Same thing with the South Bay, Torrance. Who else? Redondo Beach, Manhattan.
Oh, no,
Beach.
South Florida. There are always unaffected markets, even in 2007, Fred, for sure.
Yeah.
There were markets that were unaffected. But to answer your question, Dan, I actually agree with you. And I would be very surprised, because you're successful. I could probably break it down without knowing your backstory, but it starts with, I picked a niche, I picked an area, I did one thing, I found something that worked, I rinse, I repeat. That's it. There's no,
that's beautifully said. That's beautifully said, because
specialists always make more money. Specialists always make more money. And this is a group that is driven on a concept that was very simple to me, because it's how I started in '88. For as long as there are people who pay, there are people who don't pay, and that information is public. And this is the track that happens after they miss a payment. you should go talk to them, because after a certain point, they are going to transfer title no matter what, 8 out of 10 times. It is a historical fact, even in this market. So that's the particular niche for this group. That's what I teach. But marketing in general, there's it's always about what the specialty is. So the reason behind Home Advocates was simple. I was tired of realtors, people who stand on, I'm a realtor, therefore I'm special. Well, good for you in California. I mean, 1 out of 5 people has a license. It's not a special thing anymore. I mean, and the fact that they're primarily driven by just making the transaction.
Right.
And it gives a bad reputation to someone like you who actually cares, or Fred. Everybody that's on this call are people who care. It's a mission statement. I can't tell you, we talked about this 2 weeks ago. I got separated from my wife at Roger Waters, and I was just sitting in a casino. My phone's dead. I'm debating the long walk home because I can't even call an Uber. No cash in my pockets, no credit cards, no nothing. I was stripped before I went into the show because I can wander. It happens. I'm sitting at the MGM.
That is a very true statement, by the way.
That is a very true statement. You just take everything away from Lee. He'll be fine. He'll find his way home. He'll always find his way home. So I'm sitting at the Park MGM, and I just start chatting people up. And just by saying, yeah, I fix broken real estate, I'm actually an advocate. Well, does that mean you work in real estate? Yes, it does. It's different. We're in the business of helping people, and somewhere along the way, realtors and real estate got away from the code of ethics and what the core principles of being an advocate are. And it's shocking to me how vastly different, even people at the top end of the scale. I have more than enough number ones in my portfolio of people I've coached or helped be successful. And they're all built on the same premise. We picked a niche, we figured out a marketing plan, we rinse, we repeat.
But it's even more than that. I think, and yes, you're absolutely correct. But there's a love for it. There's a passion for it.
Yes. The guys that are at the top, top definitely have that for sure.
So I got a call from somebody, and you'll love this, about 90 days ago. And she said, her mom, and of course, Facebook, my mom died. I'm sorry to hear that. Oh, of course, sad emoji. Then she says, house, not even, mom's house goes into escrow, not even on the market. And I'm like, wait a minute, what about your phone call to me? About 3 weeks go by, I get a call, and she's crying. She's like, I don't know what to do. I'm not sure what's going on. My husband's best friend's wife is a realtor, and she's selling the home, and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so I said to her, she needs some advice. And I said to her, I go, what's your realtor say? And she goes, she's not answering the phone because she's at work. But let's back this up. So you're selling your mom's, about $1.1 million, maybe dollar home to a realtor that isn't a full-time realtor. No, she's a nurse. So you went with a nurse to sell your home. Come to find out that what she did was she signed a listing agreement. Her boss at her brokerage saw it, said, I've got the buyer. They undercut her about $90,000. Okay. And her realtor, quote unquote, nurse friend who does real estate on the side had no idea what was going on. She had no clue. She wasn't there when her client needed her to be. She couldn't answer the phone because she was at her day job. She didn't realize that her own boss sold this house from under her without even going on the market, see what the market would bear. On a market, by the way, where the market was still hot. Okay. I mean, a variety of things. Real estate is not a go-to job. You might be able to land 2 or 3 deals a year where it's just, oh my God, my best friend's selling and this worked really easy for me and easy money. But you will find yourself in situations where you're like, I don't do this full time. I don't know what what I did wrong. I don't know how I lost my client's earnest money deposit. There's so much to it. And I take it extremely seriously that when you get these, one out of five people who are agents, thinking that it's just a very easy business, it drives me nuts. Because it's the love that I have for it. It's the passion that you have for it, Lee. It's the fact that Brad truly wants to help his clients.
Yeah.
And that is, when I go to a listing appointment, what makes you different than the guy who just came in and the guy that, well, see if they use the word passion, right? Or how about this? See if they answer their phone or at least call you back. I mean, it's amazing to me how butchered the industry has been because people think it's easy and it's not a go-to job. So
Yeah,
I
agree.
feel that this will eventually weed out, this industry will eventually weed out those people, but not without it hurting people like ourselves because
Right.
they've got a listing and we don't have it because whatever, Anyway.
Oh, let me give you another story for your arsenal. And I've told this story before. I don't think I've ever recorded it. My mother selling one of the properties out of our family trust, which was my condo, my personal condo. Of course, my mom and sister are she's the attorney. So long story there, and therapy's helped. But they're going to sell the house. I go, great, I'll take care of it. She goes, no, I've hired my friend. Now, this is a friend she went to school with who's at best a 2 or 3 transaction a year person. I meet her at the property and she's talking about all the old school stuff of rehabbing and painting. I'm like, you're joking. You're joking. This doesn't need to be done that way. It can be sold as is. And no, there's more money if you rehab it. I said, okay, well, what's the cost? Like I start breaking it down and she looks at me and tells me, why aren't you taking care of this? I go, because no is more important. Because I even asked my mom, are you joking? Do you know anybody who knows more about real estate than me? And she goes, no, I don't. I literally do not know anybody who knows more about the industry than you. I said, and you picked her. And so you've tapped into something with your passion of being likable, trustable. Fred has those. I have to do everything on expertise, and that's the hardest road to go.
Right.
It's really being the guy who knows everything. And we've said it here and recorded it. It just makes you an asshole.
Right.
Nobody likes the guy who knows everything.
That's right. And then, by the way, when you do, you're expected to know everything.
Yeah. I can't hit home runs all the time.
That's right.
It's just impossible.
It's impossible. I was looking at the new RPA months and months and months ago, and I was on a class or whatever. And this lady's been doing this since dinosaurs, old smoker. And like, let me tell you about the RPA. I remember napkin deals. And she's reading the RPA. Now, she didn't know her stuff, which was really cool. And in the middle of it, she stopped. She goes, I don't recognize this verbiage. And I've looked at this 150 times before even today's class. And they added this verbiage, just overnight. And she's like, they must have just added this verbiage. My point is, we expected, as her being the expert, to understand that verbiage was in there. But even for people that are experts, don't know everything. Oh, so yeah. It's also right. It's an industry of communication. It's an industry of passion. It's an industry of challenges. But even more so, I think I find it to be an industry of love, and I love people and I love homes. So I put them together, and it's worked for me.
Well, I'm going to give you some questions because that was a great qualifier for the room. Everybody load up some questions for Dan. I can tell you're successful because you're walking and talking it all the time, right? So let's talk about the walk it and talk it all the time, much like me being after the concert and just chatting people up randomly out of the blue and being surprised by the results with Las Vegas employees. A good friend of ours who's on here a lot, David Bartels, who's a top realtor out in the Conejo, calls it the hot dog line pitch. Do you ever shy away from, hey, Dan, what do you do?
Never.
Do you have a whole pitch in your mind that you just go into?
No, I don't. I'm not, because I'm not salesy like that. right? I find that to be a very I'm a real estate agent. What's going on? But you know what? I could talk easily to people. I love people. So I'm able to, I do make it a point to mention I'm a realtor every single time, at least once in every conversation I have. And I know that's cheesy and it kind of sucks, but it doesn't have to be invasive. So for example, this morning, I'm at my son's jogathon at a school, and I'm talking to 4 parents, right? And myself, my wife's not with me. She's visiting her dad in Toronto. So I'm there, and in the conversation, I just mentioned, it came up, and I mentioned, I'm showing properties later today. And that's all I said, okay? And then, but prior to that, with this one dad, we're at a pool party about 2 weeks ago, and I just mentioned that I'm a real estate agent. So today he says to me, he goes, "Hey, we have a house in Huntington Beach that the tenant just left, and we're thinking about selling. I'm going to hit you up and talk to you about it." So that was a very soft sell. It was a very soft pitch, and it doesn't get tiring. And I didn't have to sell him on anything. And by the way, I think one of the reasons why he came back to me was because I wasn't selling him on anything. I wasn't like, "Hey, when you need help, you let me know. Hey, let me tell you what we do." It was just a very organic, natural conversation. And I think people appreciate that, especially in a world that is so in your face, and you've got just these sales driven, cold calls or whatever it might be. When you're just like, "Hey, I'm a real estate agent, I've got to show properties, whatever it is," and then leave it at that and let it organically nurture itself. But every time you see that person, you mention you're a realtor, they'll never forget. Does that make sense?
No, completely makes sense.
I
So
like
do
I
you,
like that approach. That's a very good approach, and it's the approach that people who are successful use. The one that wants to whip out their business card, or whip out their cell phone. Here, give me. I love what Lee does with his cell phone. It's really cool. But here, let you have your contact information. I won't ever carry business cards. Me personally, I do not carry business cards. When people say, "How can you not have a business card?" Because if they ask me for my number, I'll just send them a text message and say, "Here's my contact info." So and I will never offer my information. I only will give it when asked.
theoretically, the business card should be a form. To me, it's an opportunity to add credibility. So I agree with you. I think that's why the tap card is so successful when I use it. For some reason, that has a level of weird credibility that I have yet to structurally understand. But also the home advocates gimmick of just type in home advocates, scroll down. That's me on the front page. Oh, that's you. That's me. Whatever that means.
Lee, let me ask you a question if you don't mind. So I feel that let me back up. I will work any area that I'm able to work. Okay. Like, for example, yesterday I was in Mary. I live in Rancho Santa Margarita currently. I love it here. I have an escrow in LA. I have a listing. I have 2 listings coming up in LA by Koreatown. Okay. I was in Marietta yesterday to look at another listing, right? We'll see if they'll go to the market. Later today, I'm showing properties in Coto De Caza and Dove Canyon, Rancho Santa Margarita. Okay. You call me later today and you're like, "Hey, I got something in Ventura." No problem. I'll be there. Okay. I feel, and that just, by the way, it's just taking years of like, "Hey, who wants it? Danny will do it." And a lot of those are from referrals from other agents who won't go and I'll give them a 25%, 30%, 35% referral fee. Okay. Easy money for them. But it goes back into marketing, right? And I feel that in today's market, because there's so many, I like to compare it to an apple tree. There's so many different apples on an apple tree. You need to, in today's marketing, in today's industry, you need to bite a bit of every apple. Do some Facebook, do some TikTok, do some open houses, do some flyers, do whatever it is to be able to have the quote unquote law of attraction work for you.
Yeah.
Do you find that to be true, or is there one thing that you
No,
do that
well,
works?
so the first thing I would tell you is, what does your real estate license say? Last time I checked, it said California. So therefore, that is what I am a real estate agent of. And technology allows you to be an agent in California. I think people get stuck in there. And I see this especially with people I've worked with for a long time. They're in their area. They're in their box. This is what I know. I know the South Bay. I know the West Side. I know the San Gabriel Valley. Good for you.
Right.
You know, and if that's what you want to work, that, and again, there's an indoctrination in real estate where, and no knock on anybody in the room, there are people in this room that have been doing real estate for 20 or 30 years. So you hear it repeatedly, and therefore it is a truism. I work this section of Vegas. I work this type of, okay, cool for you. My license says California. Therefore, I'm going to look for everything based on technology that's provided to me to market to California. And the deal's the deal. It goes back to me being in the bank and working multiple sides to put a transaction together that's even totally different as compared to the real estate side, which was a very simple thing of, I don't care what the deal is. I can find someone to take care of it where I can be in the middle of it, and I can make money from that transaction by putting myself in the deal. So I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I just think that this is a remarkable period of time where if you're online and you're not on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Google, that's it. That this TikTok thing is just completely ironically a joke. It's just an excuse for people to make fun videos. And I'm not saying it's not successful. It's just the big four are the big four. Agents got caught up in believing it was about websites. Well, if nobody goes to your website, what does it matter what you pay for your website?
Websites, but you're absolutely correct. I think it's all about it. When I got in the business, the guy that I was my muse, he was a 7-digit guy, and everything under 7 digits he gave to me, and he was getting so much traffic from his website. But now that's dead.
That is dead. That is dead. Now to me, when you do a website, so let's just take this multi-million-dollar listing here in Vegas that I'm probably going to wind up doing the marketing for. My formula is the same. I believe you should have a website. I believe in virtual walkthroughs. I believe in photos. I believe in, snippets and whatever you can do to jazz it up, but it's a single page. It's not, there are no bells or whistles and 3D effects. And what's the point? If I spend more than $100 on it, actual cost out of pocket, it's ridiculous. That's not what I'm getting paid for. What I'm getting paid for is the content that I'm dragging people off of other corners of the web in the Vegas area to look at that page and driving them to it. And once you get that formula down for whatever makes people comfortable, I don't care if it's memes, really in Fred's case, writing those prolific posts that he puts up, or video. I push video right now, then taking them to another place. And then you put a little bit of it. It's so inexpensive while people are out there cold calling, not knowing their hourly rate. And I say this to everybody who still cold calls. If you're cold calling, are you making what's your hourly rate? Because I'll hire you, because clearly you don't understand what $20 will do in social media marketing. You have no clue. $20 will get thousands of people looking at that property or your message. And they're very simple principles. And the step is, and what I'm getting out of you, and I hope everybody's gathering this, you walked in, your business was going to be about your passion for the business. And yes, I'm a law of attraction guy. I talk about it all the time. It's one of the 3 books I tell everybody they should read. If you're walking and talking real estate and you're passionate about it and you believe it, if you believe every day you're going to go out and get a listing, you're going to get one. You will.
By the way, thank you for the compliment. That's very, very kind of you. When it comes to law of attraction, I'm a big advocate for it. And I'm actually it's very funny. So my wife and I had a tremendous budget supported by an outside vendor who just believed in me. And we did a radio campaign of an absorbent amount of money. We did for 3 months. Okay. And what was funny about it is it actually paid for itself, which was great. So we didn't lose any money. We made $2,000, right? Which was fine. We expected more. We expected to make more, but we weren't one of those, people that we expected it to be, I'm not driving an S series Benz from it. Okay. But it paid for itself and it was fun. It was good, blah, blah, blah. But this is my whole point was, we did it for 3 months. My business was booming for those 3 months, not because of the radio show at all, because of the law of attraction. I was getting business from referrals and from some Facebook stuff and from whatever. So it was very, very interesting because I'm spending $15,000 a month or whatever it was on for this humongous LA radio station that didn't do really much, but yet I had a really good run. And I just credit from other mediums, but I credit it to the law of attraction. And last week, I've got a partner who's in her mid-60s, and she's a great lady, and her business has dwindled a little bit. And we vent a little bit about the market, and we talk about it. And I was doing an open house, which I do every weekend. I'm like, "What are you doing Saturday or Sunday?" She said, "Nothing. I'm just gonna, probably see my grandkids." I'm like, "Come sit the open house with me. Just come sit and hang out with me." Because I'll tell you something, you might not get a lead from that, but the law of attraction, you'll get business somehow. And I really believe that whether or not you are passing out flyers, making phone calls, even this hour and a half, or whatever it's going to wind up being, me getting to know you, Lee, me spending time with Fred, this will bring some type of business, whether it comes directly from Lee, you calling me and saying, "Hey, look, we really enjoyed our time together," or Fred saying, "Hey, look, I'm not going to drive out to San Diego," or I get a random email, which I've gotten on a listing I have in Costa Mesa, that said, "Hey, would you willing?" It was a high-end lease, and at 9:22, "Hey, would you guys accept 6,000 a month?" Okay, we're at 7,000 a month, but I credit that interest to a law of attraction. Does that make sense? So
100%.
So as long as but this is why you have to love the business. If it's not something you enjoy doing, it's hard to get into it. Does that make sense? Like today, I've got a whole laundry list of things I'm doing today. Frankly, if it was up to me and I didn't have passion for it, what I'd want to do today, well, maybe watch some TV, hang out with, my kids come home, my wife's away, maybe we'll have my time with my children, blah, blah, blah. But that's not how my day is going to be. I mean, after this, I've got a laundry list of things I got to do. I got to work on. I'm excited about it. I'm talking to more people, right? It's a business runoff of passion and the love and it's very simple, by the way. If someone's ever thinking about getting into it, it's like, how do I get into it? You work 24/7, no vacation, and love it. And that's hard for people to realize, to do.
So true, Dan. And I want people to understand how important what he just said is. And it comes down to what my uncle says. And he was a professional golfer. And I've mentioned this many times. He goes, "If you love what you do, it's not work. But don't think for a minute we don't work our asses off," right?
Yes, that's right.
And so what does he do? He hits a white ball around, right? That's what he does, a white golf ball. That's what he did for 45 years. So, but I've been dying to ask this question. I've been letting you guys go, but this question is what we're here for today. And this is what we talked about. When you first started in the industry, you went to go work for a real estate office. The first thing that you did, Dan, and I remember this very clearly because we were talking a lot at that time. I don't know if you remember, but you would confide in me or, shoot the shit with me, so to speak. And the first thing that you would do is you would just go sit at other lazy agents' open houses in your office. Is that not what you did to get started?
Yes, I personally love open houses. I love open houses for a lot of reasons. I think it's one of the only ways to market yourself that you actually sit in front of people, right? And much like purchasing a home for a buyer, it's the first, frankly, it's the first 3 seconds a buyer's gonna know if they like that house or not. Most buyers will go through it, but when you get out of your car and you walk up to the house, you're either into it or you're not. It's the same thing when you work in open house. When someone walks in that door, I've got my own little thing that I to introduce myself and whatever, but I know within the first 3 seconds whether or not they won't even spend time talking to me. And those who do, you build this rapport. Okay. Those you don't, you let them go in. I'm not one of those agents that follow people around and make small talk. I start up a conversation. If they, it's like playing baseball. If they throw the ball back, then I continue. And then, if I'm able to get all their information, I do, but there's two things that I don't do in my open houses is I do not follow people around like a puppy dog throughout. Okay. And I do not force people to give me their information. And it's all organically given. Or at least it seems that way to them, if that makes sense.
So I've been at open houses with you, Dan, and let me just kind of let's do a little role playing, because this is where you shine, right? And when Dan says he loves people, let me tell you, he loves people, and everybody loves this guy. And he goes, "Let me give you a hug." That's the kind of guy he is. He can't help it. It was genetically ingrained in his brain since the second you were out of your mother's womb. I think I really truly believe that is your number one magic quality, and everybody has a magic quality, but yours is that you love people, right? And by loving people, you have this very inviting personality. So as soon as they walk to the door, I've been with you, right? I've been with you. You're like, "Oh my God, look at that. She's so precious." And it almost sounds fake, Dan. I'm just telling you, but I'm just telling you, but you know what? I know you so well that I know it's not fake, but I'm just thinking, "Oh, I wonder what these people are thinking," right?
Right.
But you don't even think about that because you don't give a two hoots. You're just like, so someone walks in the door.
Yeah.
Come on in. Tell them what yeah. Do your personality. Do it with your personality.
You're very kind, Fred. Thanks.
No, I'm very true.
Listen, here's the scoop. Okay. It's all about warmth. When you walk into it, you're really there to sell the home. Okay. Even if you are working someone else's listing, you're really there to sell the home. However, if the home isn't of interest to them, and you'll know pretty quickly, then you could start figuring out maybe what is of interest to them. But how I start is this: I typically have a table or whatever set up, but not one of those salesy type of things with my face on it or any of that stuff. Just very simple. It's a sign-in sheet with some waters, right? And someone walks in and you're like, "Hey, welcome. My name is Daniel. And welcome to, 1617 Somerton Drive. We've been on the market for only 7 days. House is slightly above 1,850 square feet. 3 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms. Ocean's gorgeous. The view of the ocean's gorgeous, or whatever. Let me know if you guys have any questions. But please help yourself to water. And if you don't mind signing in, please go ahead and do so." And what you find is they appreciate the invitation.
Say that one more time, because that was really smooth, really easy. Say it one more time, because it was really good, and we're recording it so people can go back and listen to this. But just say it one more time. Someone walks in the door. You're not that calm, by the way. Dan. You're never that calm. You're like, oh my God, you're overly dramatic and you're overly nice and you're overly inviting. So I would like you to use a little bit more of pretending you are at an open house right now and someone walks in the door. What are you going to say to that person? And let's be Dan Finder.
Let's say, which is hard to do, Fred, but I'll do the best I can.
I'm
all right,
putting you on the spot.
let's say Frederick walks in to my listing. Okay, I've got a great listing in Costa Mesa, one that I was talking about. Okay, so Fred walks in, right? Hey, welcome. My name's Daniel. Welcome to 1617 Somerton. House is over 1,850 square feet. We got 3 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms. The place is absolutely gorgeous. Please help yourself some water. If you don't mind signing in, that would be fantastic. Hey, where are you guys coming from? You live in the area? And then depending on how that's the spiel. Okay.
Right.
By the way, depending on how they answer will depend on if you got them on the hook. If they look at you in the face and like, yeah, we live in Costa Mesa. Oh, well, that's awesome. You guys thinking about moving close to the water? Or, what's your drill in moving? Why are you moving? And then if they continue, well, you know what? My kids are out of the house now, and it's just my wife and I, and we want an ocean view because this house in particular has an ocean view. Oh, that's great. I love it. Well, listen, why don't you guys run through? Let me know if you have any questions. I am here to help, okay? What I don't ask, is I don't ask if they have a realtor because I don't care if they do, right? If they do, awesome. You're interested in a house, I have a realtor, call me. If they don't, they'll let me know, okay? I don't know what else you want to know, Fred. I mean, I think that was a snap, of what I've.
I want to let you. I mean, Dan, I've been with you, and you are so good at small talk. Your small talk, and that's why I invited you, because I mean, I even sent Aja, a friend of mine who was getting in real estate. I said, if you want to know how to do well at an open house, you gotta go see Dan. I think you should put a video camera on and show other realtors how to introduce yourself and your home to a prospective buyer. That's how good I think you are.
Well, thank you, Fred. That's very sweet. But you know what else it is?
True. It's true.
Well, know what else it is? It's also about reading the room. Okay. People with their mannerisms tell you a whole story about themselves without them even knowing. And that's what you got to pick up on. And you'll find that like some of my most, and like one reason why I love real estate are the people that come into my life that have never been in there before. Right. Next thing you know, you're going to their kid's wedding. You know what I'm saying? Like, dude, you just walked into an open house and now I'm going to your kid's wedding. How bitchin' is that? But that's the passion that you got to have for it. You got to, and by the way, depending on the areas that you work, people act differently per area. And it's kind of like my new thing that I'm kind of analyzing as well. If you work a listing in Irvine versus a listing in Newport Beach, or Laguna Beach, or maybe for Lee in Henderson versus downtown, the people, birds of a feather flock together, and the people are different. So you got to adjust accordingly as well. But all that comes with experience. All that comes with working in different parts of the area and different communities. But the concept is still the same. The concept is still about them. Hey, I'm here to help you. Do you like this house? Great. Tell me a little bit about what you're looking for. Okay. Tell me what you like about the house. Tell me how, does that make sense? Hey guys. And then as they start talking, let's say the house isn't for them. Well, what are you guys looking for? Well, we really need a 4-bedroom. Love it. Let me ask you a question. You're in Costa Mesa right now. Would you consider Newport Beach? Yeah. Okay. Would you consider Huntington? Love Huntington. Great. Let me ask you, how much could you spend up to? Okay. Well, I can spend up to $2 million. Love it. Okay. I've got some ideas that I'd like to send to you. Can I get your email address? And this evening when I get home, I'll go ahead and send those to you. 9 out of every 10 times, if not 10 every 10, they'll give you their email address. And then now, by the way, 95% of the time, they'll never contact you, but it doesn't even matter because you're really going for that 5% of the people that will. And now, not only do you have a new warm lead, whether or not they contact you or not, but now they get your email, they get your blasts, they're a part of your system. And I'm telling you, my entire system, I've got probably about, I don't know if it's loud or not, but probably about 2,300 names of people I've met at open houses. Okay. And every time I put on an e-blast out, okay, I do get at least one response back, and not often ever do I have somebody opt out. So it's really weird how that element works, because the other thing about real estate is everybody that comes into that house is a hot lead, right? Because they're right directly in front of you and you could capture them. And if you, by the way, that person that comes in that open house has probably been and will go to another 5 open houses. So the biggest compliment is, my goodness, it's so refreshing to speak with you. The last realtor I saw was so mean. They wouldn't even talk to us. And you'd be surprised how many times I hear that. And and I've gotten calls a year down. Hey, Dan, I just sold a house in Brea, in Placentia. And that was a couple that came in over a year ago to an open house that were like, I don't know if you remember us, but we remember you. That's a bitchin' call to get. And you know what? I get at least one of those once, maybe twice a year, where it's like, we met you at the open house in whatever. I don't think you remember us, and that's a great call to get. And a lot of these people, by the way, I have notes on, or I've got their email, right? And I'll look it up quickly. So I will remember who they are. Not all the time, but they don't expect you to, because they expect you to be busy and they expect you not to, you to be kind of a fly on their wall as they, go through their year of figuring out what they're doing. But when you get that call, you know that all the open houses that you did do,
paid off.
And then here's another one for you. One other one. Working a house years ago in Corona del Mar. I did it. I'll never forget it. It was 3 weekends in a row. And all 3 weekends were so slow. Like, I literally could have sit there with coffee, naked, and not worry about somebody reading a paper, not worried about somebody coming in. Sorry about the visual, but I could have done that, right? That's how slow it was. One lady comes in, the 3rd weekend I hold that thing open for another agent, she buys the house. Till this day, it was the 2nd biggest commission check I have ever made. So, it's never a waste of time to if you're going to be at home doing nothing, you might as well be in a house waiting for something. Does that make sense?
Well, that's what I said. If I had a choice to be at home and watching television on a Sunday, I'd rather be at an open house working, as long as I'm not, crazy busy like I was in the last 2 years, because that was insanity, working 7 days a week, 12, 16-hour days. And I just, worked myself to death, and I actually felt what death felt like. But besides that, but right now, I'd rather be at an open house and be like Dan. Dan likes to meet people. He likes to connect. He likes to know people. He likes to network with people. He treats it as, and same with me. I just went to dinner with my neighbor 2 doors down, and I went to his birthday party, and it was just me and the rest of his family, and they treated me like family, and they're like, I actually feel like they're kind of like a second family to me, and they're just people that I met because I lived 2 doors down from them, and they unfortunately, Dan knows my ex Monica. They ended up coming to court with me, and we just got so close because they helped me in my life so much, and I ended up closing a transaction for them, start to finish, in 15 days, and they sold their house, and it was a very similar story to what happened to Dan's client, where their realtor was pushing a buyer, and I said, don't you dare put it on the MLS. He got 13 offers. The buyer that he wanted, that his realtor wanted him to accept was 650. They ended up selling the house for 825, and I was yelling at and I've told this story. I was yelling at my neighbor saying, "Don't you dare accept that offer. You better put it on the MLS." And I was yelling at him in his own house. I felt like I was some, scumbag, but I was so passionate. That's where the passion comes in, right, Dan? I was so passionate that this guy was going to sell his house for 650 when I know he could have probably gotten 850 or 900. He ended up selling it for 825, which was still a little bit lower than what I thought he could get, but it didn't matter. The bottom line is he listened to me. Thank the Lord above, because it ended up making him 175,000. And now I feel like they're part of my family, and their little grandkids are just the cutest kids ever. And hi Fred, can we go for a ride in the Batmobile today? Can you take me for a ride? Yes, come on over, I'll take you guys, no problem. That's how the family is, and it's great to connect with your clients like that. It truly is. And that's what Dan is so good at. Everybody loves a Dan. And it's
very sweet.
No, it's
very
so
go that far, but my God, thanks, Fred.
But no, I don't make stuff up. There's nothing to sugarcoat. That's why I wanted people just to get a taste of your personality. But one thing that I would like for you to talk about, Dan, and I know Lee has some questions, and we can, but one thing I'd like to talk about is people understand that, okay, so he's got passion. We figured that out. He's really good at the open houses. We figured that out. All right. But there was one thing that he was really smooth about. And let's go back and just rehash that just for a second, because this was about getting the email address from the person. And you said that everybody gives you their email. And let's just rehash exactly the conversation that you have in order to get their email address. Can you do that?
What you got to remember, first of all, you got to read the room. Okay. So if you got somebody in there that, and you'll know that just have no desire to talk to you, just want to be left alone, you just let them be. Okay. But people for the most part, especially in sunny Southern California, are happy and they want to talk. Okay. As well as, they want to talk about themselves. So real estate is really a very easy thing to talk about. Now, naturally, and Lee, you probably know this really well. Like when you're in a job interview, you look around a guy's office who's interviewing you and you see he has a boat. Next thing you know, you're talking about boats. Okay. Real estate, by the way, is kind of the same concept. Like if I see what cars people drive and they're, and it's a Corvette or whatever it is, you talk about 40 minutes about that car. Then it's like, oh, by the way, you tell me a little bit about where you guys moving to. Next thing you know, he's your BFF and it's done. What I think, Fred, you're specifically looking for are questions.
Well, yeah, I know what your script is, but I want to follow up on that, which is amazing. I think because you and I have experience in radio, we know how to interview.
Right.
And that has a lot to do with it. The reason I had success after that concert talking to employees of the MGM was I was just interviewing them. I wasn't going for anything special. I was just bored. It was like parlor tricks.
But plus you wanted to know, like when I want to know about this guy. Yeah, like I truly care. Like, it's not like, hey man, you buying a house? If not, have a nice day. I really want to know this guy. I want to know. So
why don't you want to buy? What is it about? I just want to know I always say boots on the ground, be it buyer, seller, other agents, any human being,
right?
Be it the community, be it the house.
Right. But I love them. You know what I'm saying? Like, I love that.
That's what I want people to understand. When he says, I really want to know, let me explain what he means by that. And he just said it. He said, I love them. He tells people, Dan tells me he loves me all the time. He literally tells me, I love you, dude. I love you, dude. That's the kind of person that he is, right? He's an I love you, dude.
That's his and I would go a step further on that, Fred. That is his niche.
Right.
That is, it's like yours, Fred. I know that if I give you a client, I know you're going to care about him like I would care for him. And people get caught up in niches saying, oh, I only do multi-million dollar Beverly Hills properties. It's not really a niche. It's an area you work. A niche can be almost anything, but if your message and your niche is, I'm going to love the shit out of these people, period. And that's it. The
Well,
rest
you
is
gotta
going
be
to fall where it
genuine about
falls.
But you gotta
Yes,
be
yes.
like, you know,
Whatever,
you gotta be
whatever
like,
that
it's
message is. Yeah, I agree.
right. But it becomes about reading the room. Okay. And that is something, by the way, that I was was past tense, my biggest weakness. Because some people don't want to love me back. They just want me to sell their home. Do you know what I'm saying? Some people are not cosmetically made up to be passionate or be emotional. You're just, you know, and that's something that one of my best clients is one of the biggest a-holes I know. But the reason why I love him is because he made me a better realtor. Okay. And he would tell, and I bought and sold many of his homes. He doesn't want to be my friend. Okay. And what he loves, and I think but what I think why he comes back to me is because I learn from him. So for example, when we're negotiating, okay, he'll be, you know, we get an offer and he'll tell me straight up. It's like, you know, hey, Sean, here's the offer. And he'll yell at me. I don't care about the offer. Tell me about the guy who wrote the offer. All right. Well, this is perfect. Now tell me about the offer. Okay. So now this guy who's extremely successful, he takes a step further, right? He's looking at who wrote the offer, where are they coming from? How do I want to respond? This is my own point of bringing it up. When I hang up the phone with Sean, I'm not like, I love you, Holmes. See you, brother. It's like, okay, I'll get working for you now. Let me respond. Do you see what I'm saying? Well,
Yeah.
otherwise, if it's, right now I've got my client, Katie, she could be the sweetest lady, inherited a bunch of money. Katie, Dan, what's going on? What we got today? We're going to meet you in Laguna Beach today. I'm super excited about this house, Katie. Let me tell you why. Dan, I love you. Love you too. You know what I'm saying? So part of the job is reading the room, and there's just a bunch of facets because it's the biggest purchase anyone can make. So it's not as simple as, this is what I do, this is how I do it. It's not. And I think the most successful realtors are ones that run through passion and are just good at that kind of stuff. So,
well, I'm going to rapid fire questions at you, big guy. And I'm going to get to Barb's question, which is one of my questions. So let's break them down into the three categories. I say that there are three categories for successful agents. I don't even have to go out on a limb. I already know you do them. So we'll start with category number one, which is your listing, your referral base. How often do you touch them and what do you touch them with?
Well, I am not an aggressive realtor. Okay. So I try not to irritate people. I send out one e-blast with whether or not I do just featured properties, an event calendar, whatever. I do that at least once a month. I've started to do it twice a month, only because I have asked my brokerage offers a pre-made e-blast that you could tailor. And frankly, I think it reads really, really well. So what I've started to do is I started to touch my masses twice a month. I find I at least get one hit back in some way off each one. Okay. But what I do, okay, is I do a weekly pizza party with each of my clients. And what I do, and I do it because I care. My past clients, my sphere of influence. So what I'll do is
Right.
I'll, come by with pizza and drinks. You sit in front of them. I never, ever, 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 ever bring up real estate because I truly don't care. I want to know how their kids are. How do you like the house? How's the area going? How's your commute to work now? Now you're working from home and we got you this bigger home. How's that going? I talk about them. They bring up real estate all the time. So tell me how the market's doing. Well, let me tell you what I'm thinking about doing. The last one I did was last Thursday. They didn't want pizza. They want Chinese food. No problem. Brought home Chinese food. Next thing you know, they said to me, hey, we'd like to buy investment properties, plural, in Arizona in Lake Havasu. What's your thought about getting your real estate license there and representing us? So, I mean, that's the kind of stuff. So I do touch the masses. If you go into an open house of mine and you do give me your information, you're on that list. Okay. So yeah, at least once a month.
So just to put a cap on that section, on a scale of 1 to 10, how important is your list?
It's extremely important because you got to remember two things: that your clients, for the most part, no matter how incredibly hard or easy your journey was through the buying during the transaction, once that escrow closes, with all due respect, they kind of forget about you. Okay, they go on with their life, they do their thing. Although you might hold a very special part of their heart to you, they're in that house for a minimum of 3 to 5 years, many now more. Within those 3 or 5 years, they meet new people, and I guarantee you, someone they meet is a realtor. Guaranteed.
100%.
100%. And now what's happened is that realtor is part of your school, is part of the kids program, has created this relationship with you where if you don't use them, they won't like you.
Yep.
So last month I got a phone call from a client of mine. It was an amazing call to get. And they said to me, hey, look, we went and we saw a house we liked, and we called a realtor friend of ours, and they showed us the house. And of course, my heart's breaking. And at the very end of it, they said, but we felt like we were cheating on you. So do you guys like the house? No, we don't like that house. And we're not going to use that realtor, but this is what we're looking for. We felt like we were having an affair on you, because I was able to touch them in some way every month. And by the way, it's very, very difficult to do. So out of, call it 20 deals a year, maybe 2 or 3 of those guys work out to be, let's say my kid has a bar mitzvah, they're on the list.
Right.
You're
invited over for the Christmas party.
That's right. The rest I'll touch them, and they'll know I'm a real estate, but they're not going to be, it's not that they're not going to be loyal. There's so many things that happen in your life, and there's so many people who are realtors, unfortunately, that it's hard to be on, it's just hard to be their go-to guy. And you understand that. So you have to come up with whatever system works for you, so they know you're still doing real estate, and they know you want their business.
You're Jerry Maguire.
That was nice, wasn't it?
You really are. I mean, you're basically explaining the Jerry Maguire model. And if you haven't seen it in a while, I recommend for everybody in the group to go see it. It's the final piece of that movie where 2 people connect and believe in each other, the first deal, and then another superstar standing there going, "You're fired." I want him, right?
Right.
That is an important connection to have, and that by itself breeds more people, which takes us to the second category. I would argue your direct marketing approach is open houses or being able to meet people. And Barbara Frisbee on the call asked, do you do anything special to advertise open houses beyond MLS?
Not really. I mean, there really is nothing more special. I mean, the MLS is the biggest platform because it feeds to all the other tentacles that feed into the system. So, how many times and look, I actually am a big advocate, which is a rarity, for secondary websites like a realtor.com or a Redfin, because it's a great resource for people. However, it is not always correct. And more times than not, I've gotten calls from people saying, "Hey, I see your house for sale on Zillow, and I'm confused. It's $1.5 million, but there's only 1 bedroom." Ugh, no, let me see if I could get that changed, which is hell to try to do. So a lot of the secondary websites, I think they're great resources, but you need to be there for them to confirm the details, right?
Okay.
And those websites pick up on the MLS. I will do, e-blasts out come see me this weekend, but I don't find it helps. I don't think that that there's any more, people that are going to go to it if they get a separate e-blast. If they're
I've
looking
tested it. Send me an email, Dan. I've tested it.
I got
I'll
a
send
little help.
You send him the video. We tested it. We tested it over a 1 week period.
Does it work?
There's a code. Yeah,
There's
there's
a code. All right,
ridiculously a code. Now, here's the ridiculous part. The method works, but when they show up, they'll still say they just saw the signs.
Right.
Which to me is the most mind-blowing fact about doing an open house. I had my license, then went back into a bank, just for the backstory on this. So I haven't renewed my license since 94 or whenever I got out of the business, but I've always been in real estate. So for me to go back and sit on open houses with my wife and watching people and just staying out of the way, like, oh my God, they always say it's the sign. They always say it's the sign. I don't care if you have a blimp flying overhead. We saw the sign.
That's really funny. Lee, I gotta give you a compliment. You did I want to say, your name came up from an old friend of mine when you were selling real estate. Anyway, I can't remember the exact story, but
Henry Nunez?
No, I can't remember. No, it was a divorce. It was some type of trust issue.
Okay.
And anyway, it was a trust issue, and you were involved with it. This was probably about 7 years ago.
Okay.
Anyway, they really loved you. They thought you were fantastic, and I'm trying to get the whole story going, but I know that we're running out of time. And I wanted to bring that up, Lee, that your name has come up in my past, not only from Fred, but
well, you knew about the Danny fight offhandedly that he fought a DJ down in San Diego in 2007. That would have came across your desk. You just didn't know it was me at the time.
No, I did not. No, I did.
I'm him. So
I got when you guys are done, I got a really good idea and I know Lee's got a good idea for the open houses as well. But when you guys are done, I wanted to just mention that. So go ahead and finish up. And
that's it. I wanted to compliment you because I know we're getting.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Which takes us into the third category. What are you doing digitally? Like,
before we answer that, let me just say about the open house, because this is really good. This is from the Aztec guy, down the Aztec mascot, and this is what he does, and his name is Carlos Gutierrez. I tried to get him onto today's call with Dan, but Dan's plenty good. But this is what he does, and Dan, you might benefit from this as well. What he does is he hires 2 assistants and himself, and they go walk the neighborhood, and they take an open house little postcard that, a color brochure or whatever they make, a little color flyer, or just like a postcard, 5x8 or whatever it is, and then they go hand it to all the homeowners in the neighborhood. And what they say is, hey, we're having an open house this Sunday. We'd love it if you would come and stop by, or if you have any friends that might be thinking about buying in this neighborhood, here's our little brochure or postcard. And by the way, if you or anybody that you know is looking to sell your home, this is one of the things that we do. We go and knock on all the neighbors' doors to let them know that we're having an open house, because so many houses get sold by their neighbors saying, hey, there's a house that just came on the market right down the street from us, and I know you were looking in our area, and I know you like the schools, and I know you want our kids to go to school together. So by the way, here's your opportunity, right?
Right. Listen, I think that's a great idea. I think it's fantastic.
I think anything is a good idea.
That's right. I think it's
anything beyond the standard norm of, I posted signs for 400 miles. Great job.
But you know what else, lately, you got to remember is that it's not for everybody. So this is the way, right?
It's tough.
It's tough. And when you're, more agents don't like it than agents that do. Right. So I've got several different partners and friends, and that all realtors, a very select few of them do open houses because they just don't like it. For them, it's volunteering their time. There's a bit of an oddity and a disconnection. It's, between who comes in, there's, it really is not for everything, but it goes back to the apple tree that I use you've got to take a bite, a little bit of everything. I have a guy in our office that loves cold calls. I hate him. Okay. Right. Farming. Okay. I swear to you, I think there are people who that's all they do and it works for them. That's fantastic. I've gotten business when very infrequently off farming. I'll do it because I feel it's a necessity in the area I dig. But it goes back to biting a little bit of biting a little bit of every apple on that huge marketing tree for it to all come together. Not one thing.
Yeah. I would argue that that's truth. Amazingly, there are periods of time where I'll go through and I'll take anybody out of my list and I'll have a marketing discussion with them. It's still amazing how many people do mail marketing. It's still amazing how many people cold call and are looking for the latest script. That's great. And door knocking, God bless you. It's also a great way to lose weight. I just know what I get paid per hour. And if I want a transaction, I'm going to do the most effective thing. And if that's going and an open house is a given. I know that that I get a good 10 to 20 people through that property, I'm getting a list out of that deal. That's going to be my fastest route or what I call the walking and talking method. Go to a farmer's market and just talk to people. And when that question rolls around to the inevitable, what do you do? Well, for me, it's because I have no people skills, but is always to do, I fix broken real estate. That's my conversation starter. And what do you mean? Well, I work in real estate. I just prefer to work with things that are, the Island of Misfit Toys type of projects.
Yeah, I love that. That's great.
And that gets the conversation. Well, what do you think about the market? I don't know. What do you think about the market? It just, that to me is direct marketing. I just prefer it to be a permission-based situation where they ask the big question of what do you do? And at an open house, it's permission. You came in, therefore you're open game in my book. You knew what was going to happen when you walked through the front door. You knew you were going to give up your info. You knew you were going to talk to somebody in real estate unless you are completely naive to the process. And I think that's what people forget about door knocking, cold calling, and mailers. They don't know you. They didn't invite you. They didn't.
But you also got to remember, which is also pretty neat, is that most likely they're looking at numerous homes.
Oh, so yeah.
Really, it's funny. You could compare it to a lineup. Let's say you could look at 6, 7 homes, and you take all the real estate agents and you put them against the wall, and you're like, which one do you like the best? They're going to point somebody out, and including their real estate agent that they might be committed to and work with. You need to stand out because they're going to be interacting with another half a dozen or so realtors. And that's, by the way, not challenging to do because most realtors shouldn't be in that open house anyway.
Yeah.
They're doing it because it's a weekend gig.
Yeah.
But it's very exciting.
Passion is your product. What comes through in this interview is you have your product is your passion.
Yeah.
And I think that everybody needs to know what that niche, what that product, what's your angle, what's your angle? And if that's your angle, go to it and go for broke. If you want to be a snooty TV celebrity, real estate agent who only worked Beverly Hills and that's what you want to portray, go all the way. Do all your TikToks, go all in. Don't dabble in it if you're going to be that person. And you aren't dabbling in this, which brings up my last question on a marketing question. What do you do digitally? How do you keep your finger, obviously email for your list, but how do you put content out for yourself?
Yeah, you know what? So it's very funny. So I'm finding that, by the way, my wife works with me. I had mentioned that earlier, and she does all my marketing, all my digital marketing, and she does a great job at it. And I'm very thankful for her. I think, again, going back to the apple tree, you got to do everything. Okay. So, I do my traditional Facebook posts, but I try to not irritate people with it. Okay, so I try to also do a little bit of a mix as well. What I'm finding is, when I do straight real estate, my interaction is very light. Okay, when I do something where it's like some type of celebration, like congratulations, we closed escrow, then the reaction is very is a lot greater, a little bit more likes, a little bit more comments. When I do something more personal, that's when whether or not it involves real estate or not, that's when today I did my son's jogathon. So it's, when I'm done with you, I'll post it. Okay. Hey, congratulations, teammates out in RSM. You love school. There's my boy Golium. And then that drives a lot of, comments and, more personality, a little bit more emotion, and they get to know you more than just a realtor, but they know that you're a realtor. What I'm finding is when I post something, I have to now do it on all mediums. Okay. Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. I haven't done the TikTok yet.
Thank God.
Okay?
Thank God.
I know you're
still
not
have respect for you in the morning, Dan.
Thank you. Thank you. But I find that it's really comical. Add to your story. So when my wife puts something out, it's like, did you put it out on all 27 mediums? And the reason why I feel that's a necessity is because I've got a client who doesn't do Facebook. She's big Instagram. So now I got to touch her. I got a client that's a big Instagram, but the big Facebook, but not Instagram. So really what's happening, I think, is I'm not saying that I've got any business from my online marketing.
I don't know if you can ever, I honestly, at this point, because I know I shoot video for other people, I don't know if you can ever say it. They're just going to call you one day.
Thank you. And that's where I'm going to this. Like, I don't know if you can measure it, right? I've got a friend.
You almost cannot. In fact, I would argue now, having done, there are 20 or 30 people I shoot videos with and do content for. Unless I'm physically using the content to drive them at a website where I can track it, saying that I specifically got a deal because I did this. It's much like using social media to advertise for an open house. They're still going to say it's the signs. So but I can tell that the numbers double. You do one without and you do one with, the numbers double at the open house when I do this.
Right.
And it's the same with anything online. I always find that to be a truism. And it's really hard because there are, this, everybody in real estate is looking for the silver bullet. And I'm a guy who likes to guarantee my process because nobody does it in real estate. Well, you can't. The agent's got to get involved and they've got to say words. And what if they don't know how to say the words? Well, then guarantee what you can do. My direct marketing has always come with a guarantee that I will get you face to face with someone that has to sell. Now, whether or not you close it at that point is completely beyond me. That's not my job. If I could I joke all the time, if I could get people from the forms of marketing I know, just sitting behind a desk like this in the studio without ever having to go out to physically meet people and make the conversion or make the phone calls, why wouldn't I do it across the country and just do referrals? I'd be the richest son of a bitch on the planet sitting on a boat in the Amalfi in a white linen t-shirt, just kind of laughing that this is all running, referring deals out all over the country. There's a reason there's nobody like that.
Yeah. No, I mean, listen, it goes back to, it's funny. We wear a lot of different hats. I think the misconception is, our job, of course, hey, I hired you to sell my home. Correct. But really you hired me to get people in the door. And Fred taught me this. Okay. 2 things sell a home: price and presentation. Okay. If the house presents itself and it's priced well, it's an easy sale. I'm not a sales guy. You know what I'm saying? House sells itself. Price and presentation all day long. The job of a real estate agent, right, really is in the beginning, if you have a listing, is to get the foot traffic in the house. Yeah. And that, right? And then let the house do the work. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, it's and I love Seth Godin for the first permission marketing book. You always have to have bait that brings them in. You always have to have the bait. It's no, I equate everything to fishing. I mean, that was my original analogy. So you're going to do what a million agents are already doing over there in that pond with the same lines and the same scripts and the same coaches. Well, that doesn't seem logical to me. Why not, beat the drum your own way? You're basically putting passion and mechanics to work.
But I like what you
Very
said,
well.
like beat your drum your own way. Everyone has their way. And as long as you can figure out what that is, like I don't like cold calling, but I love open houses. So I'll do an open house, right? But I'm not going to sit on the phone and I've done high driven sales and with the schmuck in the front of the room saying, don't forget guys, every no leads you closer to a yes. I don't like that. Right. So like you said, you once you figure out in real estate what you enjoy doing, whatever that is, okay, go with it and you'll be successful at it. Again, doesn't mean you can't bite a little bit of all those apples, because it goes back to the law of attraction, but it becomes a very easy job if you love it, right?
Absolutely. Dan, why don't you give out your number in case somebody has a referral or something they'd like to talk to you about?
Oh my God, I love that. 949-424-6633. That's 949-424-6633. I'm always here to help. I don't know how I could be of any help to anybody, but I'm that guy. If you need something, just call me, and I'll be more than happy to help.